Unlock the dark truth of Genesis, sleep deep, dream big with this Holy Bible audio now. In a small town draped in whispers, darkness took on a life of its own. The tales of Genesis where truth slumbered deep within the pages had everyone on edge. It was said that if you dared to listen while sleeping, the sacred words would reveal secrets unimaginable, sparking a craze that rippled like wildfire through the neighborhood. At midnight, the air buzzed electric, buzzing with a mix of curiosity and dread. The scuffed wooden floors of the old church creaked and groaned, like they were holding their breath, waiting for something to break the cycle of silence. Rumors dripped like shadows whispered from person to person. An elderly woman, once vibrant with laughter, now spoke in hushed tones, warning that strange dreams haunted her. She'd wake, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with terror, murmuring about figures in her sleep, figures with eyes like coals and voices like thunder. The kids dared each other to listen, hearts pounding in their chests. But what if it wasn't just a game? What if it was a doorway to something else entirely? People gathered in groups. They exchanged nervous glances, the palpable tension thick enough to cut. A local teenager claimed he had heard voices calling him by name as he drifted off to sleep, leading him to a hidden path behind the church, one that vanished under moonlight. His hands were trembling as he shared the tale. The observers' faces betrayed both shock and intrigue. A man in the back shouted to silence the chatter, demanding proof. "Prove it," he challenged, eyes darting. The excitement in the room swelled like a balloon, each breath held tight, waiting for the inevitable pop. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The following night, under a shroud of stars, the town gathered again, this time at a rickety old church whose rafters seemed to sigh against the weight of secrets. Shadows danced in the flickering candlelight, illuminating faces brimming with anticipation. What would happen if they dared to face the unknown together? Would they finally uncover the truth hidden in those mighty scriptures? As the clock struck 12, the air thick with tension, one brave soul pushed open the heavy door. The world outside felt different, charged with possibility, and whatever lay within those walls might just change everything forever. What memories and nightmares awaited them inside? The door creaked as it swung open, echoing through the silent church like a death knell. A chill swept through the room, wrapping around the gathering like a thick fog. The brave soul, a wiry young man named Mark, stepped inside, each footfall resonating against the worn wooden floor. A flickering candle on the altar cast ghostly shadows, elongating and contracting, as if they were sentient. Watching the newcomers with unblinking eyes, Mark turned back to the others, his expression a mix of fear and excitement. "Come on," he urged, his voice barely a whisper, but it pierced the stillness. Slowly, the crowd followed, a wave of hesitant bodies pushing through the threshold, breaths held tight in their chests. Each individual felt the weight of the moment pressing down, uncertainty stirring like a storm cloud in their minds. They formed a tight huddle near the altar, casting anxious glances around the dimly lit room. The church felt alive, every creak and sigh heightening the tension. Someone reached for the speaker placed on the altar, fingers trembling. This speaker was supposed to unleash the power of the sacred audio, to unveil the dark truths that lay hidden in the passages of Genesis. As the speaker crackled to life, a low hum filled the air, sinister, almost mocking. The words began to flow, weaving through the space like a dark, seductive melody. Faces shifted from worry to rapture, with many feeling drawn into a trance as the verses of the Bible poured out. Yet as the sounds filled the church, an unsettling undercurrent tugged at their consciousness. Suddenly, a loud bang reverberated, drowning out the scripture. A heavy wood plank fell from the ceiling, crashing to the floor inches from Mark's feet. He jumped back, a spike of adrenaline shooting through him. What the hell was that? He exclaimed, eyes wide with horror. Panic rippled through the crowd, muttering like a swarm of bees. Some screamed, others stood frozen, their eyes wide, hearts pounding. "Maybe it's a warning," whispered Jenna, her voice barely audible above the chaos. Her face had drained of color. "Maybe we shouldn't be here." Mark shook his head, heart racing. "No, we can't just leave now. You saw what happened when we listened." The whispers were different. Jenna stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Different how?" "They felt alive and real," he replied, breathless. "I felt something in that moment. Like it was trying to reach us." As they exchanged anxious glances, the audio crackled back to life, louder and more commanding than ever. Words turned into guttural chants, thick and heavy like molasses. The air grew thick, charged with an energy that made the hair stand on the back of their necks. Every heartbeat felt like an echo of something ancient, something powerful. Suddenly, the candles flickered wildly as a gust of wind swept through the darkened room, extinguishing their feeble light. The shadows seemed to deepen, swirling and coiling around them. There was no escape now, they were trapped in the clutches of the unknown. "Anyone else hear that?" Mark asked, breath hitching. The chant had shifted, a new phrase embedding itself in their minds: "Come forth, reveal the truth." A shiver ran through the crowd, pulses racing with fear and curiosity. The air shimmered, thick with anticipation. What truth would be revealed? What would happen if they dared to listen? And then, the ground shook as a loud echo thundered through the church, a voice booming, "Prepare yourselves, the past returns." A chilling silence followed, leaving everyone breathless, their fates hanging by a thread. Would they face what was coming or succumb to the terror lurking in the shadows? The night was just beginning. The silence was suffocating. Mark's heart raced, thudding in his chest like a drum signaling impending doom. He exchanged nervous glances with Jenna, who was biting her lip, her eyes darting around the shadowy corners of the church. The others stood frozen, every breath audible in the air thick with tension. What does that even mean?" Jenna whispered, her voice cracking. "What past? What are we preparing for?" Before Mark could answer, the voice rang out again, echoing with a resonance that seemed to come from everywhere: walls, floor, the very essence of the air around them. "The ascendance begins. Seek the vessel." Mark's gut twisted at the implications. It felt like the church itself responded, walls creaking as pressure built around them in an unseen force. Some in the crowd staggered back, fear etched into their expressions, while others leaned forward, harnessed by a combination of dread and fascination. "Guys, maybe we should actually leave now," someone finally urged, breaking the spell. It was Alex, whose normally brash demeanor was now hollow, face pale, but Mark was ready to abandon the beckoning call of the unknown. "No. No, we need to understand. Whatever is happening, it's real. It's calling to us, can't you feel it?" Jenna took a step back, clutching her arms as if to ward off a chill. "Feel what? It's madness. This isn't just a joke or a story, something is wrong." Suddenly, the air shifted, the low hum from the speaker morphed into a cacophony of whispers and haunting cries, enveloping the room like a thick, suffocating fog. Mark glanced back at the altar, where the speaker glowed ominously. It pulsed in sync with the heartbeat of the church, drawing the crowd closer. Then came a flash of blinding white light exploded from the altar, momentarily illuminating the entire church, revealing faces contorted in shock and horror. Mark shielded his eyes, heart pounding, as the blinding glare faded, replaced by a looming figure emerging from the shadows. It was indistinct at first, a silhouette coaxed into shape by the disturbance in the air. As it stepped into the dim light of the church, a collective gasp escaped the gathered crowd. The figure stood tall and imposing, cloaked in a billowing robe that seemed to dance even in the absence of wind. Its face was obscured, but glowing eyes shone through, piercing the darkness that surrounded it. "Your curiosity will become your burden," it said, voice resonating like a distant storm. "You have awakened what was meant to remain buried. The truth you seek will not come without sacrifice. Murmurs erupted, panic reigniting among the group. What does that mean? Someone shouted. Sacrifice? Are we in danger? Another voice trembled. Mark felt the gravity of the moment weigh down on him. Is this some kind of ritual? He asked, voice barely finding the strength to break through the chaos. The cloaked figure pointed a long finger towards them, its voice shifting from a low rumble to something sharp like glass. The vessel must be claimed. Who among you will pay the price? A paralyzing fear spread through the group as they looked at one another, uncertainty hanging thick in the air. Each person began to step back, retreating from the unknown that awaited them. Mark swallowed hard. What if we leave? He whispered to Jenna, his thoughts in a whirl. What if we can't? His voice trailed off, summoning the chilling realization that something had been unleashed and there was no way to turn back now. The church seemed to close in on them, shadows beckoning in sinister harmony, urging them to confront the decision they couldn't escape from. As the figure's glowing eyes locked onto Mark S., a chilling promise echoed through the church. The past is yours to unlock, but the cost will be your very soul. And with that, the air crackled, the ground trembled beneath them, leaving them to question how far they would go to unveil the truth and what their final choice would demand. Who would step forward? Who would be the first to sacrifice everything? The murmurs in the crowd turned to frantic whispers, a whirlwind of panic swirling around them. Eyes darted toward the cloaked figure, then back to one another, fear clawing at their throats. Mark stood frozen, his decision weighing on him like lead. Mark. Jenna's voice was a flimsy thread of hope drowning in a torrent of dread. We can't let this happen. We should leave. Her hand squeezed his arm, but he shook his head, searching for some rationale to justify his stubbornness. He refused to be a coward, this moment felt too significant. But what if we're meant to be here? He replied, barely able to contain the tremor in his voice. The figure shifted closer, shadows of its robe falling like tendrils over the floor. Who among you will claim the burden? It proclaimed again, echoing ominously. Each word wrapped around Mark, squeezing tighter and tighter. What if a voice emerged from the back? Alex, still pale but now steeling himself. What if we need to throw someone into this? Gasps erupted, punctuated by uneasy laughter. Are you serious? Another voice piped in, incredulity mixing with fear. Listen. Alex shot back, urgency rising in him. If any of us are going to pull out of this alive, maybe it's best we know what it takes to end this. The cloaked figure tilted its head, as if intrigued. The vessel is yours for the taking. Choose wisely. Time runs thin. A knot twisted in Mark's stomach, realizing that the seconds were ticking down towards something horrible. Should they push someone into the darkness? But the thought was absurd. Could they really sacrifice one of their own? Jenna began, but Mark interrupted her, a desperate whisper sneaking from his lips. No. We can't take anyone. Suddenly, a bizarre array of lights erupted from the speaker system at the altar. It flickered in and out as if struggling to maintain power. The air felt electric, charged with tension. A sickness rolled in Mark-esque at the very essence of whatever was happening was looking for a manifestation. Be the sacrifice. You require a vessel. The figure demanded, glowing eyes boring into him with an intensity that could shake the very foundation of the earth. The challenge hung in the air like thick smoke, leaving the group gasping for clarity. Jenna's grip tightened. Mark, you don't have to do this. Can't you see? He replied, frustration spilling over. If we stand idle, it'll consume us all. Panic erupted anew as the wall behind the figure cracked, a deep rumble reverberating through the church like a warning growl from the earth itself. Before anyone could react, a tremor rocked the building. People stumbled, clutching at the pews for support. What is happening? Someone screamed, fear painted across every face. Choose. Or be chosen. The figure called out, voice booming as if it was the thunder itself announcing a storm. And in a dizzying moment, Mark felt an urgent force surge within him, wrestling with his sense of self-preservation. His heart raced. How much was he willing to gamble? Was there a true price to pay, or was this all a game? As the tremors intensified, the skies outside darkened, and thunder boomed overhead, matching the chaos inside. Mark felt a pull, a yearning that pricked at the edges of his mind, a sense that every choice would lead to unbearable consequences. With fear clawing at his insides, he turned back to the apparition, desperation coloring his voice. What is the cost? What do you want? The figure leaned forward, lips parting with a smile that revealed nothing but shadows. All of you must decide. The vessel is here, but who will sacrifice? The hour draws near. Mark's breath hitched, chest tightening as urgency knotted in his gut. They faced an unfathomable decision, and the walls echoed a heavy truth. Someone here would indeed pay the price. As the shadows lengthened, he realized the only way to end this nightmare was to confront the darkness within themselves. Who would take that step? Who would be willing to bear the burden? They needed to act, and fast, before the choice was made for them. The church walls trembled, shaking loose dust that fell like snow. Mark's heart thundered alongside the chaos, every beat felt like it could amplify the dread in the room. The air, heavy with fright and the acrid scent of sweat, wrapped around him like a python, squeezing tighter and tighter. Mark, we have to decide. Now. Alex shouted, his voice rising above the cacophony. The desperation etched in his features reflected the turmoil churning within everyone else. They stood on the edge of a precipice, a twisted cliff of choices that could shatter their lives. Jenna's horrified gaze darted around the room, searching for any semblance of stability. We can't let fear control us. She cried out, her voice breaking. What then? Mark spat. Make a choice. Pick someone to die. His words hung in the air like lead, heavy and ominous. The cloaked figure towered, its vibe wretched and dark, an embodiment of their shared terror. You tread on borrowed time. Sacrifice or face obliteration. It hissed, a laugh reverberating through the entity's hood. Panic flared as the crowd began to murmur dissent, the idea of sacrifice metamorphosed into a grotesque reality. Some stepped back, trembling at the thought of being a giver or receiver of death. We can't do this. We can find another way. A voice shouted from the back, but it was drowned out by the growing terror of the moment, alarm ringing through their souls. Mark glanced at Jenna, her mascara running from tears. She looked smaller, like a child lost in the chaos. He felt a fierce desire to protect her, yet an opposing instinct clawed at him, beckoning him closer to the darkness. But what if this is it? His voice trembled, betraying his own uncertainty. We can't just throw someone away like trash. Jenna implored, stepping closer, desperate for connection amid the dread. We need each other. That's how we fight. The walls groaned again, splintering loudly. Dust fell like the stench of decay. A wicked grin spread across the figure's shadowy face as its glowing eyes pierced through Mark's very soul. Embrace the truth, child, or witness the end of all you hold dear. The energy shifted, and suddenly Mark felt a pull, a dark lure writhing within him, whispering promises of power and salvation. It offered protection, but at what cost? The idea of sacrificing himself began to take root in his mind, tempting him with thoughts of heroism. But would they see it that way? Voices surrounded him, a clamor of urgency and fear. Is this how it ends? Someone croaked, tears-staining faces reflected the weight of the impossible decisions before them. What if we give them what they want? Alex suggested, his voice shaky, but with a desperate spark of determination. As one of us sacrifices, the rest of us can survive. We could fight back. We know. Mark's voice sliced through the rising murmur. We're not playing into their game. His mind raced. What if Alex was right, but in the worst way imaginable? Who would they choose? Then something cracked, a loud rumbling echoed as if the universe itself was protesting. The altar ignited with a fierce glow, flickering like a dying ember about to go out. Mark could feel time slipping through his fingers like sand. It was now or never. He lifted his chin, the heat of determination roaring within him. Sacrifice myself? He whispered, heart pounding. He had to act, to own the momentum, but would they let him? Would they let themselves succumb to such hopelessness? As shadows intensified and the air shimmered with energy, Mark understood the truth deep within. This was more than about a singular decision, it was a fight for survival against darkness that threatened to engulf them all. In that split second, a thundering crash silenced the crowd. A dark figure emerged from behind. Mark's pulse quickened at the sight of looming authority, and an older woman, eyes blazing with fury, stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. What have you unleashed? She demanded, disrupting the thrall that hung over the room. But the answers to her question lay in a place neither Mark nor the others yet could fathom. The ground shook violently again, throwing them all off balance. Who was this newcomer? Was she a savior or another piece in this sinister puzzle? The looming shadow wrapped tighter around them, and their fates hung precariously. But now, they had someone to reveal the truth. Would her arrival save them or doom them further? The woman's entrance cracked the thick atmosphere like lightning. Her presence was magnetic, a flame competing with the consuming shadows. Listen. She called, her voice fierce enough to cut through the uncertainty. You are not as powerless as they want you to believe. Mark's heart raced. Could she really help them? Alex leaned in closer, eyes darting between the figure and the cloaked entity. Who are you? He shot back, his voice trembling. What do you know about this? Enough. She barked, moving with an intensity that commanded respect. I am the guardian of this place. You've disturbed forces you cannot even grasp. She turned, gesturing to the creature, now thrumming with unbridled energy. It feeds on your fear, your despair. If you let it control you, you've already lost. Each of you holds power but have been blinded by the weight of your choices. The cloaked figure roared, a haunting noise that sent vibrations through the floor. Defiance will meet only one end. It screeched, and the air crackled with malicious energy. Mark took a step closer to the newcomer. Then what do we do? He pleaded, his voice raw with desperation. We're trapped. You must confront it. Your bond can shield you, but only if you're united. She insisted, her eyes fierce. Your collective strength can break the curse this creature has cast upon you. Jenna, her face a canvas of confusion and determination, spoke up. But what if that means sacrificing someone? How can we be united if one has to die? The woman's gaze softened. Not sacrifice, but understanding. This is not about giving up, but embracing every part of yourselves, the light, the dark. Together you can illuminate the way out. The figure laughed, a harsh, guttural sound. Your light is nothing but a flicker in the storm that desires to engulf you. But Jenna shook her head hard, steeling herself. We won't let you win. She shouted, rallying her friends. If we stand together, if we trust each other. Mark's heart raced at her words. An ember of courage ignited within him. Then let us do it. For each other. To break this. He yelled, eyes shining with newfound purpose. Alex grabbed Mark's arm, terror still dancing in his gaze. What if it backfires? What if this is just what it wants? It's a risk we have to take. Mark's voice rang with an urgency that resonated within the group. They had to fight back. United, they might stand a chance. He turned to their protector. Tell us how. Hours blurred into seconds around them. As Mark focused, the energy in the room shifted. His heart syncopated with Jennifer's, Alex's, and the rest. The shadows ebbed as if drawn into an edge. It was a palpable world, their intertwined fears and hopes swirling into a unified force. Now! Roared the woman as the shadows reached their crescendo. Unleash it! Mark closed his eyes, letting his emotions surge, igniting the collective resonance. Then, all at once, they screamed together, fear turning into defiance, doubt morphing into strength. The creature writhed in pain, dark tendrils recoiling as their united will pierce through the darkness. But just as victory seemed attainable, the figure lurched forward, unleashing a wave of raw energy. "You think it's that easy?" it hissed, a wicked smile spreading across its hooded face, teeth glinting like knives. In an instant, the tide shifted. The energy surged back toward Mark, and an unbearable pressure closed around him. "What is this?" he gasped, choking on the weight of their shared fear. "Remember, it's a test." The woman's voice echoed, strained but resolute. "Embrace the pain. Transform it, turn it white hot." The world spun. Secrets began surfacing like water bubbling in a cauldron. Mark realized, deep within this storm of chaos, they didn't just face a being of darkness, they confronted their very souls. The question loomed heavy, pressing against them all: could they transcend their fear, or would this be the moment that sealed their fate? With that uncertainty threading through the air, Mark felt the horizon of understanding just beyond reach, but would it be enough? Mark's heart pounded in his chest, every beat echoing like a drum in the suffocating darkness. He felt Jenna's hand gripping his tightly. It was a reminder of their connection, a thread connecting them amidst the chaos. But now, that connection felt fragile, like a thread ready to snap at the slightest pull. As the shadows surged and clashed around them, the cloaked entity began to absorb their combined energy, its power swelling. "You are pitiful," it sneered, words dripping with disdain. "You think your bonds can challenge me? I am fed by your very fear. Stay focused." The woman shouted, eyes burning with intensity. "Remember why you fight." Mark's mind raced. Memories of laughter in the park, late-night talks, and dreams for the future flashed before his eyes, illuminating the darkness trying to ensnare him. He felt Jenna's emotional turbulence mirrored in his own. Their hopes were like flames flickering in a gale, fighting not to be extinguished. With a sense of urgency, he lifted his voice above the cacophony. "We need to find our strength. Not just against it, but within us. Each of us. What do we hold dear?" The moment hung suspended in time, the air thick with tension. Alex's voice trembled but broke through, raw and sincere. "I want to protect my family, my little sister." He clenched his fists, channeling passion into resolve. "I fight for the memories of my mom," Jenna added, determination radiating from her. "For her courage. We carry their strength." Mark took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their shared purpose. "Yeah. We can't let it win. We're more than just the darkness in our heads. We hold on to the light." As they affirmed their individual motivations, a ripple of energy spread through the group, their collective will banding together like a force of nature. The shadows writhed, pulled by unseen hands as they transformed their fear into defiance, solidified by love and unity. The woman raised her arms as if conducting the unfolding symphony. "Now. Send it forth." Together, they shouted out the things they cherished, their voices intertwining like a melody of hope. Family. Friends. Freedom. Love. The monster howled, the sound splintering the air. It was a creature of despair, and their light began to pierce through the enveloping dark. But then, just as it seemed victory was within grasp, the dark figure recoiled, its laughter mocking and sinister. "You think these trinkets of sentiment can save you?" A tempest roared around them, creating a cyclone of shadows that pushed against their forms, a pulsating wall of dread that threatened to crush them. "Hold on!" the woman cried, her voice now tinged with urgency. "Don't look back. Dig deep and push through." Mark shut his eyes tightly, a sharp pain stabbing at his chest, the overwhelming pressure threatening to swallow him whole. "Together!" he yelled, pushing himself toward the others, infusing their voices with conviction. Suddenly, a jarring bolt of energy shot through him, sending a shockwave that ricocheted among his friends. They staggered but didn't fall. They held on. "Keep going!" Jenna shouted. "We have to believe." Mark focused. The struggle transformed into a pulsating aura of light, igniting their darkest fears and bending them into a shield. The shadows screeched, recoiling from the unexpected brightness. But through the crackling sound, the cloaked figure whispered with an unnerving calm, "You haven't won yet. The true battle lies within." With every ounce of strength they had left, Mark and his friends pressed on, knowing the path to victory was still obscured by uncertainty. The looming revelation hung like a storm cloud overhead, darkness now an intimate adversary, what more would it demand? And when would they face the ultimate challenge entwined within themselves? The moment of truth was creeping closer, and the stakes were raised higher than ever. A chilling wind swept through the darkness, an unnatural force that clutched at their very souls. Mark could feel it creeping beneath his skin, the sensation making his throat tighten, forcing him to gasp for air. Yet, despite the suffocation, he held tight to Jenna's hand, a steadfast anchor in the tempest swirling around them. "Focus," the woman shouted again, her voice barely rising above the cacophony of the shadows. "Do not let it consume you." Mark opened his eyes, stronger this time, unwilling to succumb to the fear. The cloaked figure loomed there, its sinister laughter mixing with the wails of torment echoing through their minds. They were losing ground, and it felt like a crushing weight pressed against them, each breath harder to draw. "Remember why you're here," the woman cried. Her fierce gaze darted between them, urging them to pull from that inner well of strength. The warmth, the safety of their shared memories was more than just a flicker in the dark, it was a fire waiting to ignite. "I fight for my dreams, for a life beyond this nightmare." Mark shouted, feeling the warmth wash over him as he spoke. Hope surged, pushing against the wall of darkness threatening to drown them. The shadows reacted violently, snapping and swirling around him like wild animals, furious at the glimmers of light they dared show. "You dare challenge me?" The entity roared, its voice a labyrinth of rage. "I am eternal. I thrive on despair." A fierce anger rose in Mark's chest, igniting a surge of adrenaline. "No. You're just a thief, feeding off our fears. We want to let you take what's ours." His words reverberated powerfully in the frigid air. "Yes." Alex replied, his voice gaining strength. "We'll fight back. We'll break your chains." They formed a tighter circle, drawing energy from each other. Mark could feel Jenna's pulse in his hand, steady and sure. The collective resolve ignited even fiercer than before, the shadows swirling violently as if sensing the tide turning. "Shout your truth," the woman commanded, her presence embodying a beacon. "Let it echo against the darkness." "Hope!" Jenna cried, her voice pure and unyielding. "Love!" Alex added, his fists clenched. "Courage!" Came the unison. With every scream, they poured their hearts into the void, sending torrents of brilliant light surging forth. A blinding radiance erupted from their center, breaking through the vile grip of the shadows. The cloaked figure howled, a sound that sent tremors through the ground beneath them, but there was a sudden shift. The shadows surged back, larger, darker, and more relentless than before. "You think you can conquer me with words and fleeting feelings? You know nothing of the true darkness." Mark felt a tremor run through him, doubt, whispering insecurities. The memories they'd summoned started to flicker, threatened by the existence of the dark. He clenched his teeth, struggling against the wave of despair crashing over him. "No!" he yelled, a fierceness rising up through his core. "We do know. Together, we are stronger than you'll ever be. You cannot break us." As their voices harmonized into a crescendo, a blinding light erupted from their hearts, pushing all around them, an unstoppable force against the tide of shadow. The monstrous figure writhed in visible pain, claws reaching but failing to grasp the bonds that united them, but as quickly as the light surged, the cloaked entity countered. "Foolish children! Have you forgotten? The true battle is within yourselves. Those closest to you can hide the darkest of truths." Mark's heart skipped. It felt like a warning, a haunting revelation that echoed eerily in his head. What hidden shadows lay dormant within them all? Then, just as suddenly, a rift opened in the fabric of reality, a bright portal emerged, luminous but eerily inviting. The darkness shimmered around it, breathing as though alive. Mark exchanged uncertain glances with Jenna and Alex. They couldn't resist, but what awaited them on the other side? Together, he asked, his voice trembling. Together, Jenna affirmed, ignited with a new determination. With hands clasped firmly, they made their choice, stepping toward the beckoning light, a leap into the unknown. As they crossed the threshold, the light swallowed them whole. It felt like falling, yet they weren't afraid. The sensation was dizzying, like a rush of wind wrapping around them, lifting them, and carrying them into the unknown. They landed softly, disoriented yet unscathed, on a scorched ground, cracked and dry beneath their feet. A sky tinted with hues of deep gold and crimson hovered above them, a sunset that never seemed to fade. It felt surreal. Mark turned to Jenna and Alex, their eyes wide with wonder mingled with dread. "What is this place?" Alex breathed, glancing around with cautious intrigue. I think it's a reflection of our inner selves," Jenna replied, her voice wavering slightly. "We've come to face the truth about who we are." The words hung in the air, thick with tension. As they moved, shadowy figures flickered at the edges of their vision, whispering secrets and half-truths, pulling at the corners of their souls. Hushed voices clung to the wind, mocking and taunting, echoing their darkest fears. "You think bravado will save you," one shadow sneered, a vague form dripping with malice. "Every face has a hidden side. You can't escape it." A wave of unease washed over Mark, creeping like an icy hand around his heart. "Silence!" he shouted, his voice echoing back at him. But the shadows only laughed, a malevolent sound that sent shivers down his spine. That he gritted his teeth, steadying himself. "We're not afraid of you. We know what you are." But doubt raced through him, and he could feel the foundations of his courage beginning to slip. Do you truly know?" The shadows hissed back, their voices growing louder, blending into a cacophony of despair. "Do you really grasp the sins you hide?" Suddenly, Jenna gasped, stepping backward. "Mark! Alex! Look!" She pointed ahead, her eyes wide. At the foot of a grand, shadowy structure, a cathedral-like edifice, stood a mirror, shrouded in darkness. It pulsed with energy, a tangible essence of chaos that filled the air with a suffocating weight. Mark moved toward it, unable to resist the gravity it radiated. Drawn in by an unseen force, he felt an unsettling need to look deeper. But could he handle what he might see? What if it shows us the things we fear most? Alex warned, a flicker of panic in his voice. "We can't back down," Jenna urged, her grip tightening around his arm. "Facing it may be our only way home." As they hovered before the mirror, shimmers of their past began to unfold, sweet, innocent moments punctuated by laughter, juxtaposed with foggy, haunting memories that clawed at their consciousness. Mark's breath became shallow as shadows twisted, revealing dark corners of his mind that he longed to forget. "Look at him," a whisper crooned from the mirror, eyes full of dread. "He's afraid he's not enough. Afraid of failure. Isn't that right, Mark?" "No." He protested, but it felt futile against the echoing truth. His heart raced. Was it right? Were these shadows crafted from his own doubts? "Close your eyes, Mark," Jenna urged, her voice a lifeline amid the storm, but it was too late. The mirror deepened, pooling darkness, and with the blurring images came a realization that made his blood run cold. What if the dark secrets the entity spoke of were hidden deep within him, waiting to be uncovered? The shadows loomed closer, whispering truths that suffocated him, and just as Mark contemplated backing away, the mirror shattered, spilling forth a blinding light. In that moment, the ground shook violently beneath them, and a fierce wind roared, threatening to tear them apart. "Together!" Jenna shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We can face it together." But as they linked arms, another voice broke through, deeper and darker than the rest. "You've only scratched the surface. Are you ready for the horrors that lie ahead?" Mark clenched Jenna and Alex's hands, feeling the pulse of determination surge through him. They couldn't back down now. But would unearthing the truth lead to freedom, or bind them to a fate they could not escape? Together they took their stand, but the shadows closed, and what awaited them was a battle that would demand every ounce of strength they had. Would they rise victorious, or would the shadows consume them entirely? As the shadows surged around them, the three friends, Mark, Jenna, and Alex, stood their ground. Each quiver of fear echoed in their hearts, yet they held tight to one another. In that moment, they became a beacon of defiance against the oppressive darkness swirling about them. Don't let them in. We know who we are. Mark shouted, the words spilling out like fire. The resolve uplifted them, igniting a flicker of hope in a place brimming with dread. The shadows curled and twisted, shying away from their pulse of determination. Your light stings, but it won't hold forever, the dark figure hissed, agony lacing through its tone. It lunged forward, a vortex of shadows hungry for their fear, but they stood firm, united. Together. Jenna cried, her voice ringing clear. For every memory. For every dream. We are not just our fears. As if spurred by her declaration, energy pooled between them, swirling brighter with each heartbeat. With one synchronized motion, they reached into the depths of their souls. The darkness roared in protest, a cacophony of despair trying to drown out their voices. Family. Mark shouted, his heart swelling with thoughts of loved ones. Friends. Alex joined in, his fear dissipating with each word. Hope. Courage. Love. Jenna echoed, a fierce blaze in her eyes. The shadows recoiled, thrashing violently as light began to pierce through the darkness. It was a radiant explosion, enveloping them in warmth, erasing the cold grip that held threatening sway over their hearts. The shadows lashed out, but the vibrant light grew, fueled by their unwavering connection. No. The figure shrieked, its form dissipating under the rising tide of illumination. As rays of golden light clashed with the encroaching darkness, Mark felt something shift within him, a release. He wasn't just facing an external entity, he was confronting the unacknowledged pieces of himself, the doubts, the insecurities, the shadows lurking in his own mind. I accept you. He shouted toward the dark figure, feeling freedom wash over him as he acknowledged the parts of him that were flawed. You won't control me. Jenna squeezed his hand. We're stronger together. No shadow can defeat us unless we let it. She cried, visibly frustrated at the darkness that challenged their unity. With every truth unveiled, we stand taller. Alex declared, the light surrounding them pulsing in rhythm with his words. Just as their voices reached a crescendo, a blinding light expelled from their hearts, and it ricocheted off the mirror. Everything splintered into shards of radiant expression, illuminating their surroundings. The cracked earth burned with life, the shadows retreated, swirling, frantically seeking an escape from the truth they could no longer feed upon. Your fears are meaningless. The entity howled, whirling like a tempest as the light threatened to collapse its very being. With one final surge, Mark realized they could not merely resist the darkness, they had to embrace their full selves. We are not alone. He roared, throwing his fear into the chaotic maelstrom of shadows. One by one, Jenna, Alex, and Mark channeled their truths, growing in strength. I am imperfect, but I will not hide. I am scared, but I choose to be brave. I am lost sometimes, but I will always choose my friends. The choral effusion caused an eruption of light to flow out from them, obliterating every last remnant of the shadowy creature. No. No. The entity screeched, disappearing into wisps of smoke as dawn broke on their horizon. The radiant glow enveloped them, lifting their spirits until the remaining shadows shattered like glass. A warm, golden sunlight flooded through, bathing them in clarity. In the aftermath, they found themselves back in the church, the ancient rafters glowing with a golden hue. Mark looked at his friends, Jenna with tears of relief, Alex clasping onto their bond with unwavering loyalty. They had weathered the storm together. We did it. He gasped, incredulity replaced with warmth. Yes, Jenna breathed, the weight of past fears lifting off their shoulders. We faced our darkness and chose to be free. As they walked out of the church into the fresh dawn, the air was crisp with possibility. The weight of those shadows no longer followed them. Instead, a new dawn broke on the horizon, turning the dark night into vibrant colors of strength and hope. Together we'll face whatever comes next, Alex added, glancing back at their sacred ground that had transformed from an eerie haven of dread to a birthplace of resilience, and as they stepped into the warmth of the sun, laughter erupted, joy cascading like bright music. They didn't know the future, but they knew one thing: they would not face it alone. The world felt right again. They were ready to live in the light, and so, dear friends, as our journey concludes, remember, it's not what we face, but how we face it together. Stand strong in your truth, love fiercely, and never let shadows dim your light. Now, if you've loved this story and want more amazing tales, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't wait another moment, hit that red button below. And while you're at it, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this epic ending. What do you think will come next? Lastly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the light together, so everyone can conquer their darkness.